Whoa, stop. If you have not listened to trip number 5, The Answer, it's 2 episodes ago from now, you need to go listen to that right now. This episode is not going to make any sense at all unless you listen to it. And trust me, y'all, that episode is the flagship barn burner episode anyway. So just if you haven't listened to it, do it. Do yourself a favor and do it. And then listen to the next one after that if you want. But this one is going to be another unpacking episode. We got more trip episodes coming, y'all. But again, there was some stuff that I needed to unpack that I hadn't yet from the last trip episode. So this is what this episode is about. And yeah, this is a great one. This is for all you science nerds out there. And here we go. Let's jump in. Okay, damn it. I'm back. And now I know I said I would take a long break when I recorded that last episode, but I'll be damned if I didn't spend the last year going through this literal hell, and of course, heaven too, but I'll be damned if I didn't go through hell for the past year to make myself better just so I can take a freaking break. I am not taking a break, y'all. But y'all, I hope you understand that last episode was like getting ran over by a friggin' freight train for me. I mean, I have experienced a lot of cosmic coincidences in my day, but the recording of that last episode, y'all, took the cake for me. That episode was no joke. Literally. That was the name of it. But it was no joke, y'all. Despite all that, y'all, I'm going to keep going here. You see, the original intention of that episode was to lay out logical, scientific arguments in an attempt to prove that the mystical experiences that I've had on these trips were real. In other words, not just in my head. And I didn't get really far into any of that, because again, I got hit with a friggin' freight train. And not only that, but since I abandoned that idea, that whole thought process, I've done a lot more thinking on the issue, and I've improved my points such that I don't think that, anyone can really shoot holes in them. I know that sounds very egotistical, but I've done a lot of thinking here, y'all. A lot over the past, 3 weeks or so now. So, in the spirit of charging back into the battle, guns a-blazing, let's get rolling. So, the big question here is, the experiences that I've had, these psychedelic mystical experiences, the things that I've seen, the crazy things and the crazy messages that I've received from, these angelic beings. By the way, that's what I'm going to call them henceforth. I see it as God, but some people refer to them as angels or goddesses or, whatever. So I'm just going to go with angelic beings, okay? So these messages that I've seen and heard from these angelic beings and these visions and everything that I've seen, are they real? That's the big question. My assertion is yes, they are. Absolutely, they're real. In fact, they are realer than real. And I'm going to get into that later. But that's the question. Are they real? And it's funny, actually, like a good friend of mine who is really big into meditation, like goes really deep into meditation. He does a thing called the Gateway Experience. And if you think that my psychedelic trips and stuff are crazy, go look up the Gateway Experience. It'll blow your freaking mind. But anyway, so he goes in on these really deep, meditative, experiences. And he actually encounters these angelic beings too. He was very interested in the concept of, realness, right? And so he asked one of these things if what he was experiencing is real. And the answer that he was, given is something that is just so perfectly put, very beautiful and concise. That when asked if what he was experiencing is real, the being basically told him, "Well, you're experiencing it, aren't you? How is that not real?" Notice the silent pause there, because that says it all right there. And by the way, that answer is just so, it's a perfect embodiment, a perfect representation of what I call angel speak or God-splaining. You've heard the phrase mansplain. Well, these angelic beings that you encounter, They straight up godsplain stuff, and it's just mind blowing how short and quipped the sentences and stuff are, but how much meaning is packed into it, and how much it changes your life and perspective in just 3 little words, kind of thing. It's unbelievable. But anyway, that response is perfect, and it's perfect because realness is essentially 100% in your head. If you are experiencing it, then it is real. And so the question of is something real or not, it's kind of a riddle. And it's almost an unsolvable riddle. It's completely solipsistic. It's all in your head. You know, to quote a movie from the 1990s called The Matrix, I don't know if anyone has ever seen that one before. You know, the part where Morpheus is breaking down realness to Neo, he famously says, you know, what is real?
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
And y'all, that is 1,000% right. Like, if you were to look at a brain thinking about a thought and start magnifying in on the physiology and the inner workings of that thought, you're going to see neurons exchanging electrochemical signals with each other. That's all it is. That is what real is. But even that might not be real, because think about this: like anyone who is zooming into the brain, like let's say that you had some kind of crazy magical microscope or something that could, you know, look into someone's brain and zoom in and see these things happening. The fact is that your brain is using your eyes to look through a microscope to see someone else's brain, right? So it's still being processed through your brain. So the whole action of looking into someone else's, that could all be simulated, y'all. This whole universe could be simulated. And you, the person I'm talking to on the other end of this microphone right now, you could very well be the only conscious sentient being in the universe. Everything else could be faked. We all could be friggin' like robots or whatever. The only truth in existence is that you exist. Not me, not your family, not Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, I just talked about The Matrix, so not Keanu Reeves or Lawrence Fishburne either. Only you. That's the only thing that you can prove in life, is that you exist and that you can think. And that is the number one, I think Rene Descartes called it his first noble truth or something like that. Rene Descartes did a whole like meditation on this whole thing, wrote this amazing book. And the phrase, you know, I think, therefore I am, that's what that means. That's the only thing that you can, you know, prove with certainty, is that you are because you are thinking. The rest could easily be an illusion. So the question of whether or not the things that I experienced on my psychedelic trips and stuff were real or not, it's kind of a silly question. And by the way, the friend of mine who you know, asked that question to the angelic being that he encountered, before he even went on that trip, he told me that it's kind of the wrong question to ask, and I think that he's 1,000% right. Like, we shouldn't be focusing on that question, because it's all like internal. Like, you have these experiences, and they mean everything to you as a person, you, right? And anyone who challenges me on like, hey, it's not real, it's just taking a psychedelic, and of course you're going to see weird and interesting stuff because you took a psychedelic. Well, y'all, all I got to say to you is take them yourself. Now, be very careful. Like I always say, do them responsibly, have people watching you and all this stuff. But take them yourself. And you tell me if you think that stuff isn't real coming out of that experience. So yeah, it is kind of the wrong question to ask, and I will cede you that argument, okay? But guess what? I'm going to ask it anyway. You know why? Because that was my intention in the first freaking place. You know, like 2 weeks ago or whenever it was that I tried to record that first episode and got ran over by a freaking freight train. That's what I intended to do. So I'm going to do it. And furthermore, like I actually do believe in like an objective reality. Okay, I understand where Rene Descartes was coming from. Like he was trying to prove like some central axioms of existence or whatever. Like I get it, but I'm gonna do away with that whole argument, y'all. Like we're gonna just put that aside. I just wanted to kind of take you down, like, why are we even questioning if it's real anyways? But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's not only real, whatever the hell that means, but it's objectively real. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Why did I think what I experienced was real? Like, what is my bread and butter argument here? What is the hill that I'm willing to die on? Well, the number one reason that I know that what I was experiencing was 100% real was the fact that God and I got into an argument. If you recall from the previous trip episode, we got into an argument and he won the argument. I am hinging pretty much everything on that, y'all. And here's why. If you recall, I vehemently disagreed with him on the notion of, life is a joke. And y'all, he categorically, unilaterally wiped his ass with my dim-witted bullshit retort to the contrary. Now, that might not seem like a big deal to you. And furthermore, it might not even sound like proof of realness at all, but if you really think about it, it is where the rubber meets the road in the whole reality department, and is furthermore a microcosm, or a fractal, if you want to call it that, of the entire debate between mysticism and science. So why was my argument with God a big deal? How does it prove that my experience was real? Well, it's simple. Me, I would never in a million years propose something like life is a joke. Like hell, not even in a trillion years. There is no way that I would have asserted that nor stood behind that at all. Ever. So to me, that means that whatever I was talking to was not myself and therefore was not in my head. This is the number one reason why I believe I was talking to God. Now, I want you to stop and rewind this and listen to that whole argument again and really think about it, and then come back to this point. If what I was arguing with was really just me, that implies that there is a cordoned off part of my psyche that I can 100% confuse with a separate entity, and that has thoughts independent of my own, and that I can get into an argument with this part of my psyche, and that other part of my psyche can not only win the argument, but do so unilaterally and in the most beautifully convincing delivery imaginable. I mean, y'all, within 30 seconds of it Godsplaining to me how life is a joke, I was in tears and saying, of course it is. Having completely vehemently disagreed with it before it even started its argument. So if that really was just me, that means that I essentially outsmarted and outwitted my own damn self. How is that possible? How the hell can I outsmart myself, get into an argument with myself, and win, the other part of me that I don't even think is me wins the argument? If that is possible, that means that there is again, a cordoned off part of my psyche that I don't think is me, but is me, and it is the CEO behind the CEO that calls the real shots. If we're treating consciousness like a CEO of like your body or whatever and mind or whatever, this would be the CEO behind the CEO. And granted, there is actually such a thing. Like the brainstem and the autonomic nervous system, they do precisely that. They are both designed to supersede, interject, overrule, whatever you want to call it, the conscious CEO. And y'all, that is scientifically proven. Experiment after experiment, there's all kinds of clinical research and peer-reviewed this, that, and the other. It's absolutely proven. And that may all be true, but think about what the brainstem and the autonomic nervous system, what they are. They're essentially extremely primal systems that are designed to get us out of deadly situations, fight or flight, reflexes, anger, fear, all that stuff. They are not, and I repeat, are not sophisticated delivery mechanisms for highly abstract philosophical thought. But Andrew, that doesn't prove your point. You know, there's so much about the subconscious that we don't know about, and it very well could, you know, be a sophisticated. Well, but think about this, y'all. Think about what I just said there. There's so much about the subconscious that we don't know about, and to that I would say, yep, you're right. We don't know, y'all. We freaking don't know. We have a good idea of how to drive the car, but we don't know how the friggin' engine works when it comes to the subconscious mind. We just don't. What we do know, and I will cede you this argument, what we do know is that the subconscious mind seems to process things before the conscious, you know, mind is aware of it. And we do know that, you know, also the subconscious will get you like physically prepared for potential threats without, you know, your conscious knowledge. Scientifically proven, y'all. And a perfect example of this, y'all, is actually dry mouth. You know, when you get nervous, you're about to speak in front of a crowd, getting dry mouth. We've all heard about people like pooping themselves or peeing themselves in like severe fight or flight moments. And I'm talking about like real moments, like a grizzly bear charging you, or like someone pointing a loaded shotgun at your head or something like that. People will poop or pee themselves. Well, y'all, that is 100% a fight or flight, you know, reflex response or whatever, spurred on by your subconscious and your autonomic nervous system. And what's really happening there is your subconscious realizes that you're about to potentially die and starts shutting down your non-essential systems in your body and diverting that energy to your legs and arms and stuff so you can run away from you know, potential death. And one such system that shuts down like that is your digestive system. Hence, you know, all the pooing and the peeing and stuff, right? But y'all, it doesn't only happen in potential life-threatening situations. Like, again, dry mouth. You're getting in front of a crowd to talk to people or something, or maybe you're about to do karaoke, or maybe you're just talking to a hot chick or something. You get super nervous and you get dry mouth. And guess what? That is the exact same mechanism at play. Your mouth becomes dry because that is the first stages of your digestive system shutting down. Your body thinks that you are about to die and starts prepping you to run away as fast as you can. And another example of this is body language. Like Google the words, do this. It's actually quite funny. Google the words surrender cobra. That's right, surrender cobra. And what you'll find is countless pictures and videos of sports fans who have just like suffered a crippling defeat or, you know, like a major upset. And they all assume the same like awkward posture. And it's basically like you're standing up straight, you got both hands on the top of your head, and your mouth is agape in shock. And your elbows are kind of stuck out to the side. It kind of looks like a cobra. That's why they call it the surrender cobra. But it's not only sports. Like it happens with like criminals who are caught and stuff like that. Like go watch the police body cam footage of Chris Watts, you know, that piece of shit who, you know, killed his wife and 2 daughters or whatever. There's body cam footage of like the police watching surveillance video from their neighbors, from his neighbor's house or whatever, and they're showing him like putting something in a truck, and he thinks he's caught, right? And he assumes the surrender cobra stance, like he puts his hands on top of his head like a friggin' idiot. He does the freaking surrender cobra. Now, granted, the true reason why that we exhibit this strange, you know, behavior is not fully known. The leading theory is that it is something to the effect of it, like it's a last ditch effort of protecting your head and neck from being mortally wounded, like if you surrender to a more powerful foe. So like ancient history kind of thing, like when we were cavemen, if your little village got raided by like a bunch of badass crazy warriors that were just killing everyone and you had no hope left, your only hope is to protect your brain and neck the best you can. And so your body instinctively puts your hands and shit up there. I don't know. But anyway, my point here, y'all, and by the way, there's countless more of examples like this, like crossing your arms when you're talking to someone means that you're trying to protect your guts or something like that from mortal injury. Another classic one is if you're getting into like an awkward conversation with someone. Sometimes you'll notice if you pay a lot of attention here, you'll notice that you start to place your hands, like your palms, against the edge of the table, like if you're sitting down at a table. And your arms will go rigid and stiff and like push away from the table. And y'all, that's your mind thinking that you have to run away from this situation because it's potentially deadly. Like your body is subconsciously pushing like wanting you to push away from the table and run for your life. It's stupid. And y'all, that's my whole point here. The subconscious mind is doing all this stuff. Bottom line, any which way you look at these examples, there is one clear takeaway. The subconscious mind is freaking stupid. Like the fact that the subconscious mind cannot detect the difference between, like a legitimate life-threatening situation and a freaking, public speaking engagement or an awkward conversation or a friggin' baseball game is laughably pathetic. How is that going to outsmart my cerebral cortex, my intelligent part of the brain? How is that going to outsmart me? You cannot look at me with a straight face and tell me that something that can conflate something like that can outsmart and outwit my consciousness. Our conscious minds essentially win those arguments, pretty much every time. It's like, no, I'm not going to run for my life because my life is not in real danger. Furthermore, if I don't deliver this speech for work, my career won't go to the next level. I might not get promoted and blah, blah, blah. So please, subconscious mind, shut the hell up. I'm not going to die. I just won that argument. You see how that worked? So don't give me that shit. My subconscious mind can only outsmart me if it was truly like a legitimately deadly situation and overruled me. It's not a sophisticated delivery mechanism for life-changing abstract arguments. Now, the one side of this subconscious argument that I will acquiesce to is this. It is possible, actually, to talk to a cordoned off part of your psyche and be 100% convinced that it isn't you that you're talking to. And that is called schizophrenia. And y'all, here's another thing that I will actually kind of acquiesce to is the idea that I actually can win an argument against myself. Words can actually come out of my mouth that I actually mean and intend in the moment that I will actually disagree with vehemently. It actually happened to me in the recording of that last episode. Like y'all, I was trying to logically defend my previous stance on world overpopulation, and now I completely disagree with that previous stance. But y'all, did you pay close attention to that last part, what I just said there? I said the word now. I feel that way now, not then, now. So first off, let's just dispense, right off the bat with that thought that I have schizophrenia or something like that, right? Okay, I don't. I have been diagnosed with things in the past, generalized anxiety at one point, and then I think when I was really young, I was considered ADD, but not really. But regardless, I have never been, diagnosed with schizophrenia. I've been to psychiatrists in the past because of my anxiety. Never once did any kind of signs of schizophrenia like pop up or crop up or whatever. Never. So forget it. And by the way, schizophrenia happens to you much earlier in life. Like if I haven't exhibited the symptoms yet, then I'm, at the age of 38, almost 39, I'm not going to. Sorry. So if I don't have schizophrenia, but I still can get into an argument with myself and win an argument. But remember, it was a then versus now kind of thing. Like the old me can disagree with the new me and vice versa. That therefore only leaves one possibility. The possibility that I was still talking to me, but a future me. Like seriously, y'all, we just stepped through all of this, okay? Quite literally, the only way that thing that I was talking to was me telling me that life is a joke when I completely disagreed is if it was my future self, like the self that had already, fully concluded his spiritual journey and is now convinced that life is a joke. But if that really were true, not only would we encounter the typical time travel paradoxes. I mean, after all, if it was my future self who convinced me that life is a joke, well, how the hell did that future self come up with that? How was it told by another future self? How was the original self told? It's a chicken and the egg kind of thing. It's like the grandmother paradox or whatever they call it. It's paradoxical. It's stupid. So let's not even go there. But even if paradoxes were not an issue, The fact that I'm talking to my future self in the first fucking place implies that there is a timeless element to the subconscious, which is like damn right magical if you ask me. So do you really want to go there? Do you really want to mix magic and science? Watch yourself. You're turning into Gandalf. So yeah, y'all, I don't care who you are, where you are, when you are, whatever. My subconscious cannot win an argument against me. I was talking to something that wasn't me. Now, you can disagree with me all day long if what I was talking to was really God or not, but it certainly was not me. Period. And I defy you to throw some more what ifs at me. I would love to dig into this issue some more, y'all. I actually love this shit, so bring it on. But let's say that someone were to come up with an argument that proved that it really was my subconscious. So sure, I'll play your little game here. Let's entertain the idea that it really was my subconscious that I was talking to. If that is the case, well then I would say that my subconscious is God. And I don't mean that in a blasphemous or heretical way. If what I was talking to really was my subconscious, then my subconscious is a link to the spirit world. Like, what if my subconscious is a spiritual like conduit or interface to the divine? Like, what would you say about that? I mean, prove me wrong. In fact, how freaking great of a joke would that be? Like, think about this. There's a cordoned off part of your psyche that has instant access to infinite knowledge. Like, everything in the universe and spirit world alike, has infinite knowledge about all of that stuff. But you cannot communicate directly with it. Like, your consciousness can't just open up a conversation with it at will. And furthermore, for most people out there, they don't even think about the subconscious, right? They don't even know it exists. It has to lob stuff over the fence at us and hope that we get it. And if we really do get it, we think that we're the ones that originated the friggin' thought in the first place. Like, It sucks to be the subconscious, especially if it's smart enough to conceive of fractal patterns and their application to the universe and your life alike. What torture. What a joke. So either way, if I was talking directly to God or, talking to God through my subconscious, either way, it's God, in my opinion. So, okay, we're putting that one to bed now. But, another thing I can hear people saying is like, what if none of it is true? Like what if I wasn't talking to anything at all and my memory just filled in blanks, right? Like maybe I didn't get any mystical messages at all. Maybe I saw some trippy stuff and felt great and then extrapolated the rest, just made up shit in my mind that seemed like memories but weren't. Maybe I didn't really see anything, much less talk or argue with anything. So to that I would say not only no, but hell no. Like hell fucking no, actually. Like you see, not only did I document most of my trips in the moment with my voice notes on my phone, but I also have several witnesses, y'all. Anyone that I had as a sitter or whatever was usually watching me through a security camera kind of thing and hearing me have these conversations with God. Now, they didn't see what I was talking to, but they saw me talking to something and interacting and laughing and, all that stuff. So yeah, hell no. I wasn't misremembering something and, filling in missing information after the fact. And I can hear people but dude, you were tripping on ayahuasca. You clearly were inebriated. Well, why should I trust anything that someone who's that fucked up says? I mean, tweakers say all kinds of crazy shit all the time too. But y'all, I wasn't inebriated in terms of thought. My brain wasn't scrambled or brought down to a lower level of functioning such that ordinary became extraordinary. I've thought about this particular thought that I'm about to mention. I've given it a lot of credence. It almost convinced me that this stuff isn't real. So someone could come along and say, okay, well, you're in a psychedelic state. anything that someone suggests to you is going to seem amazing. Like I could tell you something that's just completely mind-numbingly obvious, like the sky is blue. And in that moment, I could just be like, oh my God, the sky is blue. It changed my life. And the theory there is, like, I thought about this really deep, y'all. And this happened this one time as I'm rolling into one of my trips. I needed to wash my hands, and I turn on the water faucet, and the water is going down the faucet into the drain and circling. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then it hit me. I was like, it's just water, and it's just a faucet, and it's just a drain. And I thought to myself, could it be that the true like magic of psychedelics is that it dumbs you down to, like, it lowers the bar such that anything you see that is ordinary seems extraordinary. And therefore anybody can come around and say anything like, hey, the sky is blue, and that blows your mind because you've been dumbed down to a level below, and anything seems magical and amazing and badass. So I've given that thought a lot of credence, and my answer is absolutely not. The mere fact that I could have that thought in that moment of questioning, you know, is it that I'm being dumbed down here and the ordinary seems extraordinary? The mere fact that I can have that thought, in my opinion, proves that that's not the case. But the other thing is I've had a lot of instances, y'all, where I'm having a scientific conversation with God. And these are coming later in my later trips. But, dude, we're throwing out quantum mechanics. And I am, like, just boom, 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 on point. Like, you can't conceive of something like quantum mechanics if you're being dumbed down. In fact, I think I had a better understanding of quantum mechanics on psychedelics. So that's not the answer, in my opinion. What I think is really happening here is that it wasn't me being dumbed down. It was all about a perspective shift. It's the shift in your perspective that shifts the ordinary to the extraordinary. But you know that old phrase, a rising tide rises all ships. It's not just the ordinary that gets lifted, y'all. This shift applies to all things, not just the ordinary. So sure, water flowing from a faucet and circling a drain is going to look way more amazing and be more mind-blowing than it otherwise is, but so are very intensely deep subject matters like life philosophies, quantum mechanics, genocide. You can keep going down the list. Everything gets more mind-blowing because it has a different perspective on it. And I believe that our perspective shifts because reality itself expands. Like looking at that water falling from the faucet and swirling into the drain became more fascinating, not because I'd never seen it before, but because I've never seen it like that before. I saw more of it than I otherwise would have because my reality expanded. It was realer than real. Now let's step back a sec to when I was, talking about the idea of an objective reality. So would you say that the color blue is objective? And granted, you can theoretically see the color blue as a different color than I do, but through association with real world objects that we all agree that are blue or whatever, the concept of the color blue acquires meaning and is thus objective. Like we may not see the same color blue, but we know that this thing that we're pointing at, we both call it blue, and therefore whatever color we see in our head, you get what I'm saying? Like that we ascribe our own meaning to the color blue or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so there is a degree of objectiveness to it there, right? Well, what if I told you that the ancient people, the ancient Greeks and such, they did not see the color blue? Now, there's no way to 100% prove this, but there has been a lot of scientists out there who think that is indeed the case. Like go look it up, y'all, if you don't believe me. Look up ancient Greeks and the color blue or whatever. Do some Google magic and you'll find it. But basically the thought is that it goes like this: like the color blue is actually very rare in nature. And forget the sky and the ocean or whatever for a second, but think about other stuff. Like It's very, very rare that you encounter like a blue butterfly or a blue bird. And there's some flowers that are blue too, but they're extremely rare. They were so rare, in fact, that the ancient Greeks, for instance, didn't even have a word for it. And not only that, but things that were obviously blue, like the ocean or the sky, were described in their literature as like being black or purple or, wine red is another, description that's used a lot. The lack of blue can be found or not found, as it were, in all of the ancient Greek texts. And furthermore, like all of the ancient texts, altogether, like the color blue just isn't there. And, anthropologists and etymologists basically have traced the origin of the word blue to about the time that humans first were able to synthesize blue dye. And this would have been about 6,000 years ago in Egypt, right? But before that, not only did we not have blue dye, but we couldn't even see the freaking color either. For some strange reason, it seems that conceptualizing a color unlocks, it to be seen. Now that idea conjures up all kinds of chicken and egg arguments, but that seems to be what happens, like really what happens. Once color has an importance or a meaning, then and only then can we see it. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I believe that meaning is everything. I think that we see things only because we can conceptualize them. And if we are unable to conceptualize them, they lose meaning and thus dissolve into a frenzied soup of like infinite meaninglessness. And furthermore, we need meaning to survive. Like it's absolutely critical. Like if speeding cars had no meaning, you would not get out of the way of a speeding car, right? If a 1,000-foot cliff had no meaning to you, you wouldn't bat an eye, to fall down one. And on the positive side, like if the sight of a juicy, delicious cheeseburger didn't have meaning, you wouldn't friggin' eat it. Meaning comes before conscious perception, actually, and this has been proven in like 100% in scientific experiments. Like there's been studies in which people who are blind and not blind through their eyes, and I know that sounds weird, but what I mean is like they have suffered like damage to their visual cortex, right? So their eyes are still intact and the occipital nerve and all that stuff, but their visual cortex is kind of messed up. And if you show these people pictures of people that have an angry face, there's an autonomic like physiological response in their body. Like they can't see it in their brain, but their eyes are still receiving the signal and their bodies respond accordingly. It's the autonomic fight or flight nervous system. Like your body's getting geared up for a fight. I mean, that right there, to me, proves there is meaning before conscious perception. Basically, meaning is the main attraction. And y'all, intense psychedelic experiences are more real than real because psychedelic experiences are all about meaning. And I mean that from both a visual sense, but also from a conceptual sense. But, let's tackle the visual sense first. So what happens visually when someone takes enough psychedelics to, see some trippy stuff? Well, for starters, and by the way, this has been, proven scientifically with, people who are tripping under like a clinical study or an experiment and they get, scanned with an MRI machine. What is seen with these brain scans is that your entire brain lights up. So normally in your regular, not psychedelic life, just regular existence, your brain is very efficient at processing the stimuli. Like the least amount of energy that it needs to process it, it'll do that. And so over time, when you're an infant, you initially start out with all of your senses, like all the separate senses like touch and feel and smell and vision and hearing and all that stuff. They're all kind of commingled into one kind of sensory experience. They call it synesthesia. And all babies basically have it. You had it when you were a baby, you just don't remember it. And what that means is that you can hear a sight or see a sound or feel a taste or that kind of stuff. Like all those signals, all that wiring gets kind of like it just merged together. They're melded together in the beginning. And as you grow older, those start to, the neural networks start to develop, and all these different neural pathways start to separate out those different functions into their respective areas. And, there is a little bit of overlap with stuff like, taste and smell, for example. But for the most part, they stay separate until you do psychedelics. Now, whenever you do psychedelics, and by the way, this also happens with like meditation and out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming and whatnot. But what happens when you take enough psychedelics is that it increases, what neurologists and neuroscientists say is it increases the entropy in your brain. And entropy is essentially, in terms of neurology, entropy is basically the chaos in your brain in terms of neurons firing in different ways and different speeds and stuff like that. Like the different parts of your brain are all firing in different ways, and that creates some chaos there. And this quote unquote chaos or entropy is directly related to consciousness, y'all. So whenever you go to sleep, right, there's time contraction, like you snap out of existence for a little bit, right? You go unconscious. And the same thing happens with anesthesia. Like if anyone's ever had a surgery and you're listening to this, like, and you've gone under, like where you go to sleep, basically, like I'll never forget my septoplasty, rather. Like the guy was like, count down from 10, and I made it to 6, and next thing you know, I woke up and the surgery was over. Like literal, I just didn't exist for a while. And so what happens with anesthesia and REM sleep and stuff like that is that it lowers the chaos in your brain, the entropy. It lowers that down to where everything is a lot more organized and less chaotic. And when I say everything, I'm talking about brain waves. And when I'm talking about brain waves, what I'm talking about is neurons exchanging electrochemical signals. Okay. All that starts to kind of flow in unison, and it actually creates these very like long and powerful waves that wash over your brain. And that, y'all, is directly correlated with unconsciousness. And then whenever you snap back awake, your entropy increases and then you're back. That's how it works. So basically, a decrease in entropy equals unconsciousness, and an increase in entropy equals consciousness. And if you keep increasing, you get more conscious, y'all. And that is exactly what happens on psychedelics. And there's a critical point whenever you're increasing your entropy, where that network, where it kind of separates all the different sensory network regions, like taste and smell and hearing and all that stuff. There's a point where that all breaks down and they commingle, just like you were when you were an infant. But keep in mind, you're not dumb like an infant. Like your cerebral cortex is perfectly intact. Like you don't regress in terms of intelligence. You keep all of your intelligence. It's just that all of your senses merge back together into like this synesthesia state again, just like when you were little. In fact, you were way little. You were a little baby. You're an infant. And so going back to the water faucet that I mentioned earlier, where I was like just blown away by the water going down into the drain and stuff. And the reason why it was so mesmerizing and so amazing, y'all, was not only was I seeing the water with my eyes, but I was also seeing the water with my ears. Like the sound of the water, I could also see. And this is a direct result of my entropy increasing, which makes me more conscious. So if I'm seeing more information and I can take in more information because I'm more conscious, think about how much more freaking mind-blowing of an experience that is than, just seeing water falling out of a faucet on a regular day with no psychedelics. The tiny little filter that we humans have was lifted, basically, or not lifted all the way, but basically peeled back, and I was allowed to see more of reality. And who's to say if humans could be in that state perpetually? Who's to say that we wouldn't eventually get used to it and not be so like in awe of it, and we can navigate just fine? But I'm actually inclined to say that is not the case. Otherwise, we would have evolved to see this stuff. Because make no mistake about it, I think that this stuff is actually real. And I think that throughout evolution, that this stuff got filtered out of our experience. It's already well known and well documented that we have a narrow band of reality that we can actually perceive with our senses, right? I mean, just look at the electromagnetic spectrum. We can only see visible light, the rainbow basically, but there is so much more to the electromagnetic spectrum that it's not even funny. Like, I mean, you got ultraviolet, you got infrared, you got friggin' gamma rays and shit, X-rays and gamma rays and all that stuff. It's crazy, y'all. And I fully believe, that if we could actually see stuff like microwaves and X-rays and gamma rays, and y'all, I'm not talking about the machines, I'm talking about the actual waves, right? So if we could see radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, gamma rays and stuff, it would freak us out. Like, there's no reason that we need to see that from an evolutionary perspective. So it got filtered out of our vision, basically. But it is still nonetheless real. So again, yeah, I mean, we have a tiny little a filter, and y'all, it's the exact same way with hearing. There's infrasonic and hypersonic sounds that we don't hear, like elephant calls, for example. Like, we have to speed up an elephant call in order for us to actually hear it. Like, we have to record it and speed it up. Any kind of seismic activity, like those actually produce sound waves. They're extremely low and we can't hear them because we don't need to hear them. We've evolved. There's too much stimuli out in the world. There's too much data for us to process, and we have to find an efficient means of processing data that helps us survive. And it just so happens that trying to process extremely low frequency sound wasn't beneficial for our survival. So we said, okay, it's out of there. Same thing with very high frequency sound. Like there's no need for us to process that and waste the brain power and energy to process that. So that's out of there. So you can see it starts to get whittled down to a very narrow band of reality that we think is the real reality when it really isn't. And I think that is the exact same way that what I call the spirit world or whatever is. I think it's just as real, if not realer. In fact, I keep using the phrase realer than real because that's what I experienced and felt and know. It's realer than real because it's freaking, I don't know, it's freaking real. Just go in and see it for yourself, y'all. But regardless, my point is that anyone that's gone deep enough in with the psychedelics can tell you that you see and experience some crazy stuff. And for the most part, you're kind of incapacitated in total, in awe or in complete terror, kind of frozen. So it does not behoove you to see those things in your regular, waking light of day kind of situation. Like, from an evolutionary perspective, it's not a good thing to see all the time. So it makes total sense to me that animals have shut that out of their sliver of reality. Like, we don't need to see that, don't need to process it. It's way beyond our capacity to process anyway. That's why it hurts your friggin' brain when you're delivered these unbelievably life-changing messages and you're trying to conceive of all this stuff. It hurts your brain, y'all, because there's so much intelligence and so much deep thought involved. If we saw all this stuff all the time, y'all, we would die so young. Well, not only would we not get away from a speeding car or some shit like that, but just the sheer energy and stress that you had to put yourself through to dive into these abstract thoughts and then deal with the absolute terror of a trip to hell or two kind of thing, and it will age you fast. There's nothing beneficial about survival from that standpoint. So it makes total sense to me that it would be filtered out of the sliver of existence. So that is essentially what I mean when I say that it's realer than real. These experiences that I've experienced, y'all, actually are an objective reality that anyone can kind of go to. So what I think is actually going on here is that, your entropy in your brain is going up. You're getting more conscious, right? And that, blends and melds the different senses, right? So your synesthesia is ramping up as well. So not only are you seeing things in a different perspective and gleaning more information off of these things, but you now have a larger capacity to take in that information and process it because your consciousness is rising, right? So you're getting all of this increase in information, and there reaches a point, a tipping point, if you will, where there's too much information. It becomes too real, and it tips over in a sense that it now loses its meaning. Like this trash can or this cell phone that I was looking at, I have now gotten so much information out of it that I can't make sense of it, and it loses its meaning. And that is what I think happens when, you know, people say, a lot of people talk about like walls melting and stuff like that. And for me, it was the shape-shifting stuff, right? But either way, that is what I imagine happens, is that whenever things lose their meaning, they visually and conceptually dissolve into a chaotic mess of meaninglessness, essentially. But keep in mind, you're not being dumped down, right? All your intelligence is still there. And your consciousness and entropy are continuing to rise. So you're actually, your brain is functioning at a higher capacity, and you're in a way becoming smarter. It's just that there's a tipping point and it loses the meaning. So in my opinion, this is still reality. Nothing, you haven't left reality. In fact, you're entering more into reality, essentially. And it's during this time, it's actually even before this, but by the time you've reached the point where things start to dissolve and melt away or whatever, or shapeshift, you've already kind of passed this certain point that I'm about to bring up. It's a thing, there's a network in your brain called the default mode network. And it's responsible for like you recognizing yourself, essentially, like that you exist. Not only that you exist, but where you are, like physically in space kind of thing. And what happens whenever you start to ramp up on psychedelics is that, just like the whole synesthesia thing, like those networks start to kind of meld and merge. Your default mode network kind of gets overruled by all this chaos in your brain, and it kind of goes away in a sense. So you lose your sense of self. And the beginning stages of this, everyone talks about, this feeling, this oneness, this connectedness with, everything, right? Not only just people and living organisms and stuff, but even inanimate objects, like, the desk that I'm looking at right now. And then as you go further and further, now you're feeling connected with, everything through space and time. And then you're talking about like being connected with the universe in general. And right about the time that everything's starting to dissolve, that's when you kind of get launched into, first there's the waiting room, and then then you blast off into the stratosphere and go into heaven, basically. And so what all is happening here, y'all, is that your window is opening wide open to see what the real reality is, y'all. Everything that you thought you knew loses meaning, and you get launched essentially into the real reality. So there's the full picture right there. I mean, that is pretty much all I can say on the matter. And I can also tell you this: as amazing as my psychedelic experiences have been, I haven't even hit the waiting room, y'all. I almost got to the waiting room. And go look all this stuff up. I don't want to go into a long discussion about what the waiting room is, but y'all, I've now been on, 9 trips. I've only recorded 5. And by the way, there's more recordings, my trip episodes. There are more of them coming. I went on a little pause here, but they're coming. Don't worry. But, with all of my trips, my 9 deep trips, I still haven't gotten to the blast off phase. And that's like the most coveted phase, y'all. That's where basically time stops and you launch into the friggin' universe or the stratosphere or heaven or whatever you want to call it. And you basically stay there for what seems like a long time. Some people say eternity. Some people say years. But regardless, time seems to stand still. And you take this amazing, wonderful journey through the Pantheos. But anyway, that's all I can really tell y'all, is that even despite my experiences, y'all, I haven't even gone all the way. And I have some crazy, crazy experiences to kind of share with you. Trips numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, they are crazy. But y'all, I still haven't gone all the way. Can you imagine this? I'm going to try on my birthday, which is coming up in January. I'm going to try to kind of go all the way in, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, y'all, this shit is no joke. Just remember that, y'all. This is no joke. It is real. And I'd like to think that I just logically kind of proved to you that it was, but again, I know that there's skeptics out there like crazy. I used to be one. I still am one to some degree. But y'all, I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than what I just did. There's a lot more logical paths that I can go down. Like, I haven't even touched on like the hypothesis that mystical experiences are an evolved defense mechanism, like a survival mechanism, if you will, that makes people want to stay alive, and one could argue that's the strongest and most powerful survival mechanism, right? But and I have a whole like argument that tears that down, y'all. But that's a whole nother like hour-long episode. I shan't get into it right now. Maybe I will as a bonus episode somewhere down the ways. I don't know. But what I'm trying to tell you here is, y'all, I don't know. I done lost my train of thought here. I've been rambling now for a friggin' hour plus here. Realness. It's real. Oh, no joke. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you here, y'all. If you believed anything that I told you, right, and you're still interested in getting into psychedelics, just remember, y'all, that it's real. Okay? Again, I'd like to think that I just logically kind of proved that to you. But in my mind, it is 100 billion% real. Okay? So be careful. Be freaking careful. Now, I will end by saying this. Okay? I've actually kind of gotten into trouble a little bit with some of my fellow journeymen and journeywomen. It seems like that I'm poo-pooing a lot on ayahuasca, and I'm kind of building up mushrooms too much and kind of poo-pooing on ayahuasca too much. Let me get something clear. Ayahuasca is above and beyond, light years beyond, more amazing than mushrooms. Light years, y'all. Like, amazing. Okay? Like, I think I mentioned it before, like on mushrooms, you have to kind of play charades with God. Every now and then you'll get like a message kind of downloaded, in your brain, but the conversation is very, very, less fluid. It's more staccato kind of thing. And most of the time you can't even communicate directly. You're just seeing these symbolic visions and stuff. On ayahuasca, man, I'm not joking, y'all. It's a straight up conversation. Just let me ask you this complicated question, and you're going to give me an equally complicated answer. Or actually, it's a simple answer, but it's one that has so many layers of complication in its simplicity. You have to experience it to believe it, y'all. I call it God-splaining, or angel speak, or whatever. But I'm losing my train of thought yet again. What I'm trying to tell everyone here is that ayahuasca kicks mushrooms' ass all over the place. The good stuff is so much gooder. I know that's not a word, but it's so much more awesome, y'all. The bad can also be a lot more bad. But either way, whether it's good or bad, you get more out of it, y'all. Like I think I've mentioned it before. Like, I cherish my bad trips because I actually learn more from them. So ayahuasca, it cranks up the volume on both sides. And for me, I think I went dark a lot and saw like evil or fucked up stuff a lot because I've been a nihilist for 20 years, y'all. And I was thinking fucked up shit. Obviously, you heard the last episode. I mean, so I was already geared for that. Okay, so not everyone's going to have that experience. So don't think that you're going to go into ayahuasca and go straight to hell. Like, a lot of people don't. A lot of people just have, like, they only have amazing, like wonderful, beautiful experiences. And by the way, the flip of that is true too. Like, you're not always going to only have hellish experiences. Like, you're going to get some good experiences too. Like some amazing, when I say good, that's not the right word. Amazing isn't even the right word. Y'all, it's whew. Anyways, what I'm trying to say here in so many words is that ayahuasca is the end all be all. Like, I bow to it like I would bow to God, because to me it is God. Like, that is my the direct, most clear cut conversation, conduit to God. So yeah, obviously I'm a huge fan. I might not say that on my next trip, because I might go like deeper into hell, and that's gonna be terrifying. Like, y'all, just about after every trip, I tell myself it's the last trip, like no more. But there's that itch, y'all. There's that I'm an explorer. Like, I want to know more, and damn it, I'm gonna freaking find more out, and I'm gonna keep doing this stuff, much to the chagrin of my my friends and family. They think I'm a friggin' wacko. I know, but that's another thing I want to point out and make very clear here, y'all, is that I am limiting myself here. Like, it's actually very tempting, because you get such beautiful, beautiful moments. It is so tempting to try to do this like more often and more frequently or whatever. But you really got to watch yourself. You can't really get addicted to psychedelics per se, but you can get addicted to the amazing experiences that psychedelics bring on. And I've actually seen it happen. I know some people that do it like a lot. And, with my rule of thumb was, whenever I started going in, or wanting to go in rather, and do an ayahuasca trip so I can ask God like career advice, that's when I was like, I need to stop. Like, it's not, guys, you can't derive all of your wisdom from these psychedelic experiences. It's dangerous. And remember, go back to episode 1. When I say dangerous, I mean life and death. But again, don't let me scare you. I said that it's not a fun thing on my first episode, these journeys and stuff. And to me, it's not. But there have definitely been parts of it that were just a friggin' riot. I mean, knee slapping, joke telling with God. I mean, like, no joke, like funniest freaking thing I've ever known or talked to or whatever in my entire life. Hilarious. And these beautiful moments, they're so beautiful. You could call it fun. If you want to say that, like, crying your eyes out, like every last possible tear that you can possibly cry because something is so beautiful, if you want to call that fun, go right ahead. I don't call that fun. I call that amazing and awesome. The fun is such a reductive word in the face of that. It's don't even get me started. So again, I stand by that these experiences are not fun. They're amazing. They're beautiful. They're mind-blowing. And they're mind-blowing in both ways, both good and bad. But either way, boom is all I got to say. Like, wow. Like, holy shnikes. I'm going to try to quit cussing so much. Anyways, I've talked for way too long here. Just wanted to let you guys know, with a 1 hour plus long episode here, that I am back. I am not taking a break. I'm going to keep unpacking this stuff. And when I say unpacking, like, I've now had like 2 unpacking episodes in a row, right? Don't worry, I'm going to do more trip episodes. Like, I got like 3 more to go. I love you all. I've been talking way too much here, and goodbye. Y'all are awesome. Tune in for to the next one. Tell all of your friends and family and stuff. Like, share this with anyone who's going through some shit, y'all. Anyone who needs help, anyone who needs God, any kind of like science nerd who thinks they have it all figured out. Like, this is really for anyone except for kids. Don't let your kids listen to this, please. please don't let your kids listen to this stuff. But this really is for everybody. So please can you like a podcast or whatever? I don't know. If you can like my podcast, rate it, give me the 5-star review, write a little blurb, an amazing, just do me a solid here. Okay. I would very much like to kind of like, I don't know, become more. That's all I'm going to say. I want to become more and I want to help more people. So help me do that. Share the episodes, rate them, all that fun stuff. I love you all. I've been talking too much. Goodbye. My loud ass cherry here. Listen to that. It's an antique. Anyway, I love you all. Bye.